بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. الزكاة ليس لها علاقة بهذا الذي يعني تجب في حق الزكاة. يتيم، مجنون، غني، فقير، ليس لنا علاقة به. عنده مال بلغ نصاب لابد فيه الزكاة، سواء كان مجنون أو يتيم أو فقير. أعطيك مثال أنا. نعم.
When it comes to the obligation of zakah, its obligation is not connected to the person, meaning whether the person is an orphan or a child, or whether the person is poor, the obligation of zakah is not connected to the person. And I'll give you examples to clarify the statement.
بعد عمر طويل في طاعة الله مات الشيخ إبراهيم.
After a long life upon obedience to Allah, Shaykh Ibrahim died.
وترك ولد.
And he left a child.
عمره 5 سنين.
And this child is only 5 years old.
هذا يتيم. مات أبوه ولم يبلغ. تمام.
And now this child or this son of his, he is an orphan. Why? Because the father passed away and he was only 5 years old. The child was 5 years old.
كم خرج لهذا الولد من الإرث من إرث الشيخ إبراهيم رحمه الله؟
And how much inheritance was given to this child from the inheritance or the wealth of Shaykh Ibrahim rahimahullah?
70 مليون.
70 million pounds.
بعد سنة.
So after a year,
قلنا لأم هذا الولد، قلنا أعطينا زكاة المال. مال عنده 70 مليون، مر عليها سنة كاملة.
So after a year has passed by, we said to the mother of the child that give us the zakah which is due on the money he owns, meaning 70 million pounds.
قالت هذا يتيم.
And she replies, no, but this is an orphan.
قلنا ليس لنا علاقة، لو مجنون أيضا نأخذ منه الزكاة، لأن الزكاة متعلقة ببلوغ النصاب وحولان الحول. صاحبها غني، فقير، يتيم، مجنون، نخرج الزكاة.
And so we reply to the mother that zakah is not connected to the individual, rather it is connected to the wealth. So we don't look at the state, or we don't consider the state of the individual, whether the person is poor or rich or old or young or mentally sane or mentally disabled. It does not matter. We only look at whether the person possesses the minimum threshold and whether a year has passed by after which he has possessed the minimum threshold.
مفهوم؟ تمام. مثال ثاني.
A second example.
هذا الأخ قلنا فقير.
We said regarding this brother that he is poor.
معاه 1000.
And he only possesses 1,000 pounds.
يوم عيد الفطر.
On the day of Eid al-Fitr,
آخر يوم من رمضان.
the last day of Ramadan.
كم معك؟
How much do you possess?
قال معي 1000.
He says, I possess 1,000 pounds.
إذن يفضل عن قوتي وقوت عيالي أكثر، يستطيع يخرج زكاة الفطر صاع من طعام. مفهوم؟ تجب عليه الزكاة. قال لكن أنا علي دين 20,000 مثلا. نقول ليس لنا علاقة، عليك ديون ما عليك، نحن لا نسأل عن الدين. فعندما تأتي للشيخ إبراهيم وتقول عليك زكاة كذا، ما نسأله كم عليك دين، ما لنا علاقة. الدين هذا ليس له علاقة، نحن علاقتنا ببلوغ النصاب وحولان الحول. مفهوم؟ ولا ما كان أحد أخرج زكاة يا رجل. نعم.
So this poor person, we say to him that at the end of Ramadan, because he gives his zakah on the first of Ramadan. Now it's the last day of Ramadan, and we say to him, how much money do you have? And he says, I have 1,000 pounds. So we say to him that this 1,000 pounds, this is surplus to the requirements of you and your family, and therefore zakah has to be given. And even if he says, but I only have 1,000 pounds after the passing of the whole year, which remains, but this 1,000 pounds that he possesses, this is the surplus of what was required for him and his family, and therefore he has to give the zakah. And if he said, but I have debts upon me, I have a surplus of 1,000 pounds, but I have 20,000 pounds of debt, or Shaykh Ibrahim says that I have millions in debt. The fact that a person owes a loan, this has no connection whatsoever to zakah. Because if we were to consider the loans of the people, then nobody would be giving zakah.
نعم بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله كتاب الحج.
And then after this we come to Kitab al-Hajj.
صيام.
Then after this we come to Kitab al-Siyam, the book of fasting.
الصيام ما هو؟
So what is Siyam?
الصيام هو الإمساك عن الطعام والشراب وسائر المفطرات من أذان الفجر إلى أذان المغرب، لكن لابد أن يكون بنية، أو تقول في أول التعريف هو التعبد لله بالإمساك عن الطعام والشراب وسائر المفطرات من طلوع الفجر الصادق إلى غروب الشمس أذان المغرب. نعم.
So what is the definition of as-Siyam? As-Siyam, it is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through abstaining from food and drink and the other matters which invalidate a person's fast, and this is from true dawn to sunset. So a person has to abstain from food and drink and the other matters which break a person's fast, but with the intention, i.e. the intention of worshipping Allah.
الصيام يقوم على ركنين، أركان الصيام اثنين. نعم، الأول الإمساك والثاني النية. نعم.
And therefore, fasting, it is built upon two pillars. There are two pillars for the validity of a fast. Firstly, abstaining from those matters which break the fast, and the second pillar, the niyyah, the intention.
نعم. هذا قال أمس طيلة النهار أنا لم آكل ولم أشرب ولم أأتي بمفطر لكن ما نويت صيام باطل.
So if this person says that yesterday for the full day I did not eat, nor did I drink, nor did I do anything which would break the fast, but I did not make the intention, we say to him, your fast is unaccepted.
وهذا قال أنا نويت لكن أكلت وشربت. نعم. وأنا ذاكر ليس ناس.
And if another person says, I did make the intention, the niyyah for fasting, but I was eating and drinking intentionally.
نعم. على من يجب الصيام.
So there's no fasting for this person. After this, upon whom is fasting an obligation?
يعني صيام رمضان.
Meaning the fasting of Ramadan.
على كل مسلم.
Fasting of Ramadan is an obligation upon every single Muslim
بالغ
who is over the age of puberty.
خرج هذا غير البالغ الصغير، لكن الصغير نعوده على الصيام ونشجع على الصيام وتعطوه هدية حتى يصوم.
And therefore the young person who is under the age of puberty is excluded from the obligation of fasting. However, in order to cultivate the person to fast when he or she reaches the age of puberty, whilst they are young, we train them upon fasting in stages and we give them gifts and prizes for fasting.
عاقل.
Also, the person has to be sane.
مستوطن يعني غير مسافر، مع أن المسافر الأولى به الصيام. نعم.
And the next condition for the obligation of a fast upon a person is that he has to be resident. So the one who is traveling is permitted to fast. However, it is obligated upon a person who is resident.
نعم. الصيام أولى لأنه ممكن يؤخر ولا يصوم. نعم. إلا إذا يشق عليه.
Even a person who is traveling, it's better for him to fast, because perhaps he will delay the fast and delay making it up and delay making the qada, and then he has no opportunity. So it's better for him to fast even if he's traveling, unless the fasting is going to harm him or is difficult for him.
قادر على الصيام خرج به العاجز، عاجز إما لكبر سن أو مرض، ليس أي مرض إذا صام قد يضر به. مفهوم؟ نعم.
And also the person has to have the ability to fast, and therefore an old person who is too weak to fast, or an ill person, and not any type of illness, rather that illness that if the ill person was to fast, then the fasting would hurt or harm him. This ill person does not need to fast.
تزيد المرأة الخلو من الحيض والنفاس.
And then an additional condition for the women, and that is that she has to be pure from the bleeding of the menses or postnatal bleeding.
نعم. طيب ما هي المفطرات؟
And then after this, what are those matters which invalidate or break a person's fast?
نعم. الطعام والشراب، الأكل والشرب وما يقوم مقام الطعام والشراب مثل الإبر المغذية، هذه سيروم بالإنجليزي إيش؟ هذا اللي إيش اسمه بالإنجليزي؟
IV drips.
تمام.
So what are those things which invalidate a person's fast? Firstly, food and drink, and then anything which is similar in meaning or benefit to food and drink, like any type of medicine which gives nutrition to the body, like for example the IV drips.
لا، لكن لو أخذ إبرة مسكنة للألم مثل فورترين، هذا ما لا صيامه صحيح. بنج الإبرة للأسنان هذه غير مفطرة. نعم.
But if a person was to take an injection to reduce the pain, for example, then this does not break a person's fast. Or if a person was to take an injection to lessen the pain of the mouth or teeth, this does not break a person's fast.
نعم. وما يجري مجرى الطعام والشراب، أخذ قطعة بلاستيك ما هي طعام لكن ابتلعها، هذا يجري مجرى الطعام والشراب، هذا من المفطرات. مفهوم؟ نعم.
And also anything which enters the body like food or drink would enter the body. So for example, if a person took a piece of plastic, even though that plastic is not food or drink, but he swallows it, then this breaks a person's fast. Why? Because it is entering the body like food and drink would enter the body.
طيب، قطرة العين.
Eye drops.
وضع قطرة العين، وجد يعني مرارة هنا في حلقه، مفطرات أو لا؟
If a person uses eye drops and then after using the eye drops he can feel its bitterness in his throat, does it break the fast or not?
نعم، من المفطرات أو لا؟
Does it break the fast or
قطرة
not?
عين. نعم. وجدت إنسان عاقل يشرب من عينه؟ ما يوجد. إذا ما من المفطرات، ليس مدخل معتاد للطعام والشراب، حتى لو وجد مرارة ليست من المفطرات. هذا يقول الشيخ ابن عثيمين رحمه الله. نعم.
So Shaykh Ibn Uthaymin rahimahullah, his view is that if he takes eye drops and even if he can taste the taste of the bitterness of the drops in his throat, this does not break a person's fast. Why? Because this isn't how people eat and drink. Nobody drinks through their eyes. So this isn't the normal passageway for food and drink.
نعم. قطرة العين، قطرة الأذن، هذه ليست من المفطرات.
So eye drops and ear drops do not break a person's fast.
نعم. لكن قال عليه الصلاة والسلام: وبالغ في الاستنشاق في الوضوء إلا أن تكون صائما. يعني الصائم ما يغوص، يعني في البحر يغوص. نعم.
However, when it comes to inhaling something or not inhaling something, food, any type of liquid which is inhaled through the nose, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, وَبَالِغْ فِي الْإِسْتِنْشَاقِ, that be excessive when it comes to rinsing your nose unless you are fasting. And for this reason, a person who is fasting should not be swimming or diving into the sea.
لا، swimming ما في مشكلة، لكن تحت دايفنج. أما سوينج ما عنده مشكلة. نعم. له للصائم له أن يتبرد، يسبح، يغتسل، ما في إشكال. نعم. الإشكال في الغوص.
So
نعم.
a fasting person can take a shower and can swim, but the problem is diving into the water and being immersed in the water.
تمام. هذا الأول من المفطرات، الطعام والشراب. نعم.
So the first type of matter which invalidates a fast is food or drink or anything which takes the meaning of food or drink.
نعم. الثاني نعم. الثاني ما هو؟
The second matter which invalidates the fast?
النوم. هل النوم من المفطرات؟ والله بعض الناس يظن أنه ما ينام وهو صائم، يصح ينام لكن لا ينام كل اليوم. نعم.
Does sleeping invalidate a person's fast? No. some people, they think that sleeping invalidates a person's fast, and it does not invalidate a person's fast. But it's not permitted for that person to be sleeping throughout the day, يعني all day.
تعمد القيء تعمد حتى يستقي هذا من المفطرات.
But self-inducing vomit, this invalidates a fast.
الحجامة ومثله التبرع بالدم.
And also blood cupping, and similar to it is donating blood. This يفطر.
نعم التبرع بالدم من المفطرات. نعم.
So donating blood and blood cupping, this also invalidates a person's fast.
لكن أخذوا منه عينة تحليل الدم هذا ليس من المفطرات.
But if a small amount of blood is taken for blood analysis, this does not invalidate a person's fast.
نعم غيره إذا تعمد إخراج المني يعني مستيقظ، أما نائم وخرج منه المني، نام بعد الفجر وخرج منه باحتلام، صيامه صحيح. نعم.
If a person has a wet dream and there is a discharge of semen, this does not invalidate a person's fast. But if a person was awake and he intended this, and he intended the discharge of semen through his actions or the actions of another person, this breaks a person's fast.
والجماع.
And also intercourse.
وتزيد المرأة.
And then when it comes to the women, there is an additional
خروج دم الحيضة والنفاس.
And that is
هذا من المفطرات عندنا.
the discharge of the blood of menses or postnatal bleeding.
نعم. الصيام ينقسم إلى قسمين، صيام فرض وصيام نفل.
And then there are two types of fasting, and that is the obligatory fasting and the fasting which is nafil.
صيام فرض صيام رمضان.
As for the obligatory type of fasting, the fasting of Ramadan.
والكفارات مثل كفارة يمين، صيام 3 أيام متتابعة إذا لم يقدر على الثلاثة. نعم.
Or the fasting which is obligated in the form of a kafara, an expiation, like we mentioned, the expiation of al-yamin, that a person fasts 3 days consecutively if he is not able to fulfill the other matters.
نعم. الثالث النذور، هذا قال لله أعتذر أن أصوم غدا أصبح الصيام في حقي واجب. نعم.
And then the third form of obligatory fasting is when a person obligates a fast upon himself through a vow. He said that I obligate upon myself by the name of Allah that I have to fast. Now it is an obligation upon him to fast.
يباح للصائم.
And what is permitted for the fasting person?
بلع الريق.
To swallow.
لأن بعض الناس يظن أنه لازم يبصق، لا هو ما أدخل شيء إلى جوفي أصلا.
To swallow saliva. So some people they think that a person is not allowed to swallow saliva, but this is permitted. Why? Because he hasn't eaten something or put anything into his body.
والتبرد.
And also taking a shower.
لا التبرد يعني شغل مكيف، بعضهم لا يبقى في الحر. نعم صحيح والله. نعم التبرد والاغتسال. نعم.
So a person cooling himself by using the AC or for example taking a shower.
نعم. ويباح ذوق الطعام للحاجة فقط، يعني مرأة تعرف هذا عند الإفطار إذا كان الطعام الملح زائد أو ناقص ممكن يطلقها، فهي تذوق الطعام حتى لا تصنع مشكل. يعني بعض الناس يصوم سبحان الله خلاص يعني ما يكلم أحد في نهار رمضان. نعم. مع أنه الصيام تهذيب للنفس. نعم.
والذوق بجعلها على اللسان.
كذا شوفها هذا الذوق بس هكذا، مو يذوق ما شاء الله يأخذ ملعقة. نعم هكذا يذوق الطعام. نعم ذوق على اللسان. نعم.
And also it is permitted for a fasting person to taste a small amount or tiny amount of food if there is a need to do so. Like for example
للحاجة، ذوق الطعام للحاجة. أما هذا يأتي ما شاء الله هنا في السوق ويذوق، هذا ليس جيد. لا. نعم.
So tasting a tiny amount of food by placing it upon the tongue if there is a need to do so. Like for example a woman who is cooking at home
نعم.
and she needs to check the salt and the spices. If it was too much, maybe the man would divorce her. And therefore, a small, tiny amount of food, she can place it upon her tongue if there is a need to do so to taste it. But as for taking spoons or tasting various types of food, then this invalidates the fast.
نعم. يستحب للصائم نعم.
And also, it is recommended for a fasting person
تعجيل الفطر في أول الوقت.
to hasten to break the fast in the beginning of its time.
تأخير السحور إلى تقريبا قبل ربع ساعة من الأذان الفجر.
And to delay the suhoor in the morning until roughly 15 minutes before the adhan of al-Fajr.
يتسحر على تمر الأفضل سنة.
يفطر ولا يتسحر؟
يتسحر.
And that a person, he takes for suhoor dates.
والأفضل أن يفطر على رطب.
And it is better for a person to break his fast with fresh dates.
ما هو الرطب؟
And what is الرطب?
الآن عندنا الذي يخرج من النخلة يمر بثلاثة مراحل. مرحلة قبل النضج يعني لا يؤكل، ومرحلة يكون مثل التفاح فاكهة، هذا لا يمكن تخزينه، مثل التفاح مثل الفاكهة، هذا نصف ونصف. الآن لا يصلح التخزين لكن يصلح للأكل، هذه المرحلة وسط. المرحلة الأخيرة يصلح التخزين، هذا التمر. نعم، لأنه بعضهم ما يرى الرطب هنا. نعم.
So when it comes to dates, there are three stages in the growing of dates. Firstly, when a date is not ripe, neither can it be eaten nor can it be stored. And then there is a second stage when the date is ripe, it can be eaten fresh like a fruit, however it cannot be stored dry. And then the third stage is when it is ripened and it can be stored dry.
نعم. السنة أن يفطر على رطب.
So the sunnah is for a person to break his fast with fresh ripe dates.
فإن لم يجد فعلى تمر.
And if he's not able to do so, with dried dates.
فإن لم يجد فعلى ماء.
And if he cannot find dates to break his fast, then with water.
يعني أول شيء يبدأ به الماء.
Meaning the first thing that a person breaks the fast with is water.
فإن لم يجد فعلى ما وجد مثل برتقال مثلا أو لحم. نعم.
And if he has no dates, no fresh dates, no water, then whatever food he can find, like for example oranges or any other fruit or food.
ما وجد شيء فقير ليس عنده شيء.
And if he possesses nothing in terms of food or drink,
ينوي.
then he makes an intention with his heart to break the fast.
نعم. يستحب للصائم الاعتمار في رمضان.
And it is encouraged for the fasting person to perform Umrah in Ramadan.
قراءة القرآن.
And also to occupy his time with the recitation of Quran.
الدعاء.
And supplicating.
صلاة التراويح.
And also to pray Salat al-Tarawih.
الاعتكاف في العشر الأواخر من رمضان حتى يدرك ليلة القدر.
And for a person to perform i'tikaf, meaning to devote himself and isolate himself in the masjid with the worship of Allah, so he can coincide with Laylatul Qadr.
تحري ليلة القدر.
And this is in the last 10 nights of Ramadan, and also to seek out Laylatul Qadr by an abundance of worship.
يحرم على الصائم.
And then there are certain matters which are forbidden for the fasting person.
فعل كل محرم وقول كل محرم.
And that is every haram statement and action.
نعم. طيب. ويحرم عليه يقول بلع النخامة. يعني البلغم ما يبلع، لكن لو ابتلع لم يفطر، لكن حرام عليه. نعم.
And also some of the ulama mention that it is forbidden for a fasting person to be swallowing phlegm. If he swallows it, it does not break his fast. But before swallowing it, it is forbidden for him to do so.
نعم. طيب. بعد هذا سنذكر كان عندي واحد يسألني يقول هل أكرمكم الله الدخول للحمام من مفطرات؟ قلت لا، ما ليس مفطرات. نعم، فقط اللي ذكرنا هذا الجماع وكذا، لكن في ليل رمضان يأكل يشرب، مفهوم؟ نعم.
There was a person who asked me a question, and he said, if I enter the bathroom, is my fast broken? And the answer is, why would it be broken? So the only thing which invalidates a person's fast is that we have mentioned eating and drinking and intercourse and those other matters in the day of Ramadan, whilst a person is fasting. As for the night of Ramadan, it's allowed for a person to eat and drink and have relations with his wife and so on.
أفضل شيء في رمضان أن تبقى في المسجد تحافظ على صيامك بالبقاء في المسجد.
And the best method of preserving your fast is for a person to remain in the masjid whilst he is fasting, and this way you are protecting your fast.
نعم. وبالنسبة لكم دائما خليك في المسجد.
And as for you people,
في رمضان في غير رمضان.
it's better to remain in the masjid inside and outside of Ramadan.
والله تشعر بقيمة المسجد في هذه الدول أكثر من بلاد المسلمين. لماذا؟ لأن عندما تدخل تشعر بماذا؟ إيمان. صحيح والله. نعم.
By Allah, you appreciate the value of the masjid, especially in countries like this. In fact, more so than even the Muslim countries. Because here, when you enter into the masjid, you feel Iman.
تمام. صيام النفل.
And then when it comes to the fasting, which is encouraged and recommended but not an obligation,
صيام الاثنين والخميس.
Then the fasting of every Monday and Thursday.
والاثنين آكد.
And fasting Monday is more emphasized than Thursdays.
صيام 3 أيام من كل شهر هجري.
And fasting any 3 days of a Hijri month.
صيام الأيام البيض 13 وال14 وال15 من كل شهر هجري.
And also fasting the days of the full moon, and they are the 13th, 14th and 15th of every Islamic Hijri month.
صيام داود عليه الصلاة والسلام يصوم يوم ويفطر يوم.
And also the fasting of Dawood alayhi salam, and that is that he would fast a day and he would not fast the next day.
يصوم أكثر شهر محرم.
And also fasting the majority of Muharram.
وشعبان أكثر شهر شعبان.
And the majority of Sha'ban.
وست من شوال.
And also fasting 6 days of Shawwal.
وصيام يوم عرفة.
And also it is encouraged, highly recommended to fast the day of Arafah.
10 من ذو الحجة لكن دون يوم العيد. نعم.
And also the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah, of course not the day of Eid.
نعم. يحرم صيام يوم العيد عيد الفطر وعيد الأضحى.
And then there are certain days in which a person is forbidden
هذا
from
صيام محرم. نعم.
There are certain days in which a person is forbidden from fasting, like the days of Eid.
ويحرم صيام أيام التشريق إلا لمن لم يجد الهدي 11 والثاني عشر والثالث عشر من شهر ذو الحجة.
And also the days of Tashriq, and they are the 11th, 12th and 13th of Dhul Hijjah. It is forbidden for a person to fast except for the one who is intending Hajj and he could not find an animal to slaughter.
ويحرم صيام يوم الشك يعني يتقدم رمضان بيوم أو يومين احتياطا يعني. نعم.
And also it is not permitted for a person to fast a day of doubt, meaning he's unsure whether Ramadan has entered or has not entered. So just to be on the safe side, he fasts 1 or 2 days before Ramadan. This is not permitted.
ويحرم صيام الدهر يصوم ولا يفطر.
And also it is forbidden for a person to fast every single day without days of not fasting.
وإفراد يوم الجمعة بالصيام.
And also it is not allowed for a person to single out and specify Friday with fasting.
إلا إذا صام ليس من أجل يوم الجمعة مثل عاشوراء الآن كان في يوم الجمعة صام من أجل عاشوراء ليس من أجل إفراد الجمعة بالصيام مع أن السنة كان يأتي بيوم 9 أو 11. نعم.
Unless a person fasts on Friday, but not because he's specifying Friday, but due to another day coinciding with Friday. For example, this year, Yom al-Ashura, it coincided with Friday. And therefore, a person can fast on that Friday. Why? Not because he's intending the Friday, but because Yom Ashura, it coincided with the Friday, even though that which is better and complete is to fast Yom Ashura along with the day before it, either 9th, or Yom Ashura along with the day after it, either 11th.
يحرم الوصال يعني لا يفطر عند المغرب يواصل الصيام يواصل الليل بالنهار. نعم.
And also it is forbidden for a person to continue fasting after the day time of Ramadan. He passes by Maghrib and carries on, continues fasting the night of the day, this is also forbidden.
والله أعلم. صلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى صحبه وسلم. جزاكم الله خيرا.